Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Our top story. New data reveals a noticeable slowdown in China's economy when U.S. tariffs peaked. Details on how Washington's move affected the world's second largest economy. Walmart said some price tags will get hiked in response to U.S. tariffs, but President Trump says Walmart should eat the tariffs. Plus, a comment from the White House press secretary covers why Beijing came to the negotiation table.
They need our markets, they need our consumers.
President Trump just inked multi-billion-dollar AI agreements with Gulf nations. Could the move open a backdoor for China to gain access to America's advanced AI? And is COVID-19 once again becoming a public health concern in China? Official announcements are hinting that the answer could be yes. Details confirm significantly more cases found across the country. China's economy squeezed by U.S. tariffs. China's National Bureau of Statistics releasing a set of figures Monday showing the country's economy slowed in April. The plunge was felt across the board, from industrial production to consumer spending and investments, particularly in fixed assets such as buildings and equipment. The data was recorded at the height of the U.S.-China trade war when tariffs from both sides skyrocketed. Now the U.S. has agreed to cut tariffs on most Chinese goods from 145% to 30%, while China cut tariffs on U.S. products from 125% to 10%. The truce will last for 90 days. The new data shows China's industrial production grew slower in April than in March. Industrial production is a key economic indicator used to measure the health of an economy. Retail sales in China also slowed in April, a sign of weak consumer spending. Investment in buildings, equipment, and other fixed assets likewise lost its momentum that month. Some believe U.S. importers would use the 90-day window to import more from China, which could provide a short-term boost for its economy. Despite the pause for one factory in China making Halloween decorations, the damage is already done. That's because the peak season for factories making spooky decorations starts in March, and some of his American clients suspended or delayed their orders.
They have already delayed our production time. For example, in a normal quarter, let's say these 2 months, I can produce about $69,000 worth of goods. But now I only have $28,000.
Beyond manufacturing, data shows China's debt-ridden property sector also remains a burden. New home prices in 70 cities continue to decline. To cope with U.S. tariffs, China has been redirecting trade to other countries. Data shows Chinese shipments to the U.S. dropped by over 20% in April, while its shipments to Southeast Asian countries rose by roughly the same amount. President Donald Trump said over the weekend that Walmart should eat the tariffs instead of blaming duties imposed by his administration on imported goods. Earlier last week, Walmart said it would raise prices on certain imported goods. 60% of Walmart's goods come from China in 2023.
U.S. President Donald Trump on Saturday said Walmart should, quote, eat the tariffs imposed by his administration on imported goods instead of hiking prices for its consumers. His comments were in response to the world's largest retailer saying this week it would have to start raising prices later this month due to high tariffs. Trump in a social media post Saturday said, quote, Walmart should stop trying to blame tariffs as the reason for raising prices throughout the chain. Walmart made billions of dollars last year, far more than expected. He added that the retailer should, quote, not charge valued customers anything. Walmart, in a statement to Reuters, said it would, quote, keep prices as low as we can for as long as we can, given the reality of small retail margins. Walmart CEO Doug McMillon on Thursday said the retailer could not absorb all the tariff costs because of narrow retail margins. Even so, he said the company was committed to ensuring that tariff-related costs on general merchandise, which primarily comes from China, would not drive food prices higher. Many U.S. companies have either slashed or pulled their full-year expectations amid friction between the U.S. and its trading partners, particularly China, as consumers pull back on spending. As a bellwether of U.S. consumer health, Walmart's explicit statement about the impact of tariffs is a signpost for how the trade war is affecting the retail sector. Walmart is noted for its ability to manage costs more aggressively than other companies to keep prices low.
On Monday, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt answered a reporter question about President Trump's response to Walmart. Watch.
The reality is the president has always maintained Chinese producers will be absorbing the cost of these tariffs. And that is why China was so quick to hustle to the negotiating table with the United States of America. They need our markets. They need our consumers.
The U.S. imported $440 billion in goods from China last year. China imported about 1/3 of that value from the U.S. President Trump made a high-profile visit to the Middle East last week. He was joined by a delegation of top tech CEOs. The trip culminated in the announcement of multi-billion-dollar AI agreements between the U.S. and Gulf nations. But the deals have sparked criticism from some Democratic lawmakers who warn they could open a backdoor for China to gain access to America's advanced AI. The White House responded to those concerns on Monday.
And these AI agreements, particularly the one the Secretary of Commerce signed in the UAE, has security guarantees to ensure that China is not getting the advantage, but the United States is getting the advantage when it comes to AI, and that the UAE and the U.S. are working hand in hand together to invest in this space.
The U.S. and the United Arab Emirates will partner to build the largest AI data center outside America. The 10-square-mile AI campus will be located in the UAE's capital, Abu Dhabi. The agreement adds to the country's commitment to investing in the U.S. It also further aligns its national security regulations with America's and strengthens provisions for technology security. Meanwhile, in Saudi Arabia, NVIDIA will ship 18,000 of its cutting-edge AI chips for a data center being built by Humane. The company is a new Saudi state-backed AI infrastructure startup.
Part of going to the Middle East was to ensure that the United States, that this part of the region, our Gulf partners, know that the United States of America is there for them again, and that they should be investing in the United States, not in China.
The Gulf nations have been working to shift their energy-driven economies towards models powered by the high-tech sector. Trump's visit provided major incentives for that goal. In addition, the U.S. Department of Commerce last week rescinded a Biden-era rule on AI chip exports to foreign markets. The rule had divided foreign countries into 3 tiers. As outlined by their tier, the UAE and Saudi Arabia faced the limits on how many advanced chips they could receive from the U.S. Instead of the tiered system, the Trump administration prefers to make one-on-one agreements about AI technology.
Moving to mainland China, at least one person is dead after a shooting at a barbecue restaurant on Sunday located in the city of Wuhan. And just a warning, the following footage may be disturbing for some viewers. We spoke to 3 local residents. They told us separately that the incident was sparked by personal conflicts. They said at least one was killed on site and 2 others injured. Another person said 2 people were killed. All of them confirmed that the attacker used a gun. It's worth noting the Chinese Communist Party imposed very strict gun control laws back in the 90s. Local police didn't mention the use of a gun in the incident, saying only that the suspect was arrested after the attack. News of the situation was also largely censored across all Chinese media platforms. Crimes sparked by social anger and unrest are on the rise inside China. They're largely driven by the suffering and hardships imposed on the Chinese people by the communist regime. These attacks often take the form of knife attacks or vehicles being driven into crowds. Is COVID-19 spreading inside China again? Local reports say many people have been infected with the virus recently, showing symptoms of fever, coughs, or sore throats. Videos showing packed hospitals are circulating on Chinese social media platforms. They say COVID-19 has been circulating locally in low numbers since the pandemic, but has recently been on the rise again. Beyond local reports, even the country's top state health agency confirmed the rise of positive cases of COVID-19. Worth noting, the Chinese regime has a history of covering up or downplaying the severity of public health crisis. According to China's latest official data, COVID-19 was the top cause of influenza-like emergencies last month across the country. The official report also says the overall trend is rising. And southern China's situation is worse than the north. A medical expert told a Chinese newspaper that this round of COVID-19 actually started back in March. He predicts the trend will hit its peak later this month. Authorities in Beijing also confirmed that COVID-19 cases, including patients with severe symptoms, doubled over the past few weeks. It's a rare move for the capital city to admit a public health crisis. We called Chinese people living across the country to hear about their experiences. They said there are rising cases of sudden deaths in their social circles, including many young to middle-aged people. Some crematoriums and public cemeteries are also reportedly being expanded to cope with increasing needs. What's more, in recent months, a slew of middle-aged established elites in China have passed away in the wake of rising virus surge. Their deaths have sparked discussion online. Hong Kong's world-class pop singer Eason Chang was also confirmed to have COVID-19, driving fans' worries about his health. Coming up, China may try to disrupt public morale in Taiwan. That's the comment from Taipei after a Chinese flag was planted on Taiwanese soil. Images of the incident were spread on social media. The Taiwanese president reaches the one-year mark since he took office this week. What is Taiwan expecting from China? And how is China utilizing AI and automated bots for its propaganda and military purposes? We speak with a cybersecurity expert for insight.
You can spread one piece of propaganda to 180 million people instantly who have smartphones.
That and more in just a minute here on China in Focus. Welcome back to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. A Chinese flag on Taiwanese soil. Taiwan's Coast Guard said China may try to disrupt public morale on the island. That's after images surfaced on social media of a person planting a communist Chinese flag on a Taiwanese beach.
Regarding the footage taken on shore, it has been confirmed to be at the wind turbines in Taoyuan. However, whether the individual truly came to Taiwan by piloting a rubber dinghy, as claimed, or if the footage was taken locally or staged with the help of collaborators in Taiwan, remains unclear. We are conducting an in-depth investigation.
The images emerged yesterday on Chinese social media. They showed a man who claimed to have sailed across the Taiwan Strait on a small boat. He lands on a remote beach and plants a communist Chinese flag, then he returns to mainland China. The video was later deleted. She said the video was indeed taken down on a beach in Taiwan, but whether it was by someone who crossed over from China or was helped by someone in Taiwan to film it was still being investigated. On Friday, Taiwan's Coast Guard said it arrested 2 Chinese nationals after they sailed into Taiwan illegally on a rubber boat. Xie said the Chinese Communist regime has been taking the opportunity for a while now to carry out drills and use other pressure tactics. He said he suspects the Chinese regime could try to cause chaos during the Taiwanese president's one-year anniversary this week.
Taiwan is on alert for more Chinese military drills this week as President Lai Ching-te reaches his one-year anniversary in office on Tuesday.
Lai thinks China's main goal is to step up on the world stage and start rewriting the rules with intentions to reshape the global world order. And that's why Beijing's been ramping up pressure on Taiwan. Taking over the island is a key part of China's overall game plan. Lai pushed back against Beijing's claims over the self-ruled island, saying it's up to the Taiwanese people to decide their future, not China. An organization speaking on behalf of Taiwan states that since Lai took office, threats from China have basically become routine. They warned that Taiwan isn't ruling out the possibility of seeing more Chinese military drills, calling them part of China's propaganda procedure. Over the past year, China has staged several rounds of military exercises around Taiwan, signs many believe that more are on the way. Notably, these drills ramped up in 2022 after then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan. Following her trip, China launched live fire, air, and naval exercises, showcasing its military strength.
In a hearing on Capitol Hill last week, U.S. intelligence and military officials warned that China is planning to invade Taiwan by 2027. The undertaking could put America's security on the line and cost the world trillions of dollars in a single year. Here's what John Molinar, the chairman of the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party, had to say.
We are not seeking war. We are trying to prevent one. And prevention only works if Xi believes that the cost of aggression is too high to bear.
Congressman Nathaniel Moran talked about the potential impacts on America if China invaded Taiwan.
When you look at the economic devastation that will occur worldwide if China takes over Taiwan, it will impact the everyday lives of Americans. It will further isolate the United States from influence across the world. It'll allow the malign influence of China to grow in a region that we cannot allow it to grow. And the first step is Taiwan. We've got to stand strong with them.
And on the international level, China has been trying to separate Taiwan from foreign nations for decades. A product of that goal, the World Health Organization on Monday refused a request from Taiwan. The island had asked to attend the annual World Health Assembly as an observer. It's the highest decision-making body of the WHO. It's the 9th year in a row that the WHO has rejected the proposal from Taiwan. Something to note, Taiwan was the first to alert the WHO to the emergence of COVID-19 in Wuhan, China back in 2020. Taiwan had noticed the situation and sent out the alert weeks before China. The WHO did not respond to Taiwan. As the U.S.-China tech race heats up, there's growing concerns around how different countries are teaching their AI models. If China's chatbots are infused with Xi Jinping thought, what would that mean when it's unleashed around the world? And how does the latest in tech fit in with China's hybrid warfare? We sat down with Rex Lee, cybersecurity advisor at MySmart Privacy, for insight. Rex Lee, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you back on the show.
Thank you, Tiffany, for having me on the show.
No, we saw some jokes recently with, say, ChatGPT versus ChatXGP, as in the ones in China learning Xi Jinping thought, but also taught with those socialist values. But on that note, what is that added layer of concern where you do have a foreign country with foreign laws behind some of these chatbots?
That's exactly what's happening now. As you know, we've talked about this before. They've already overlaid AI on every application, Google, Microsoft, and including the developers from China like ByteDance and Tencent. ByteDance develops TikTok, Tencent develops WeChat, and they're integrating their AI into all of these social media platforms. So these AI chatbots are going to be available not only to kids, but adults who are using these platforms. The adults can easily be manipulated. So you can imagine today with generative AI, it's a recipe for disaster, to say the least. We've already seen issues with TikTok challenges. So again, we've already seen harm, carnage, and damage done just from social media platforms that are supported by brain hijacking technology, which is tantamount to brainwashing technology. It's associated with manipulative advertising technology.
And expanding on that a bit, talk to us about how all of this plays into China's tech-based hybrid warfare.
Well, what we're seeing is a lot of people don't realize this, that China has different military divisions for this. One of them is the 50-cent army. They have campaigns that they run on social media. It's not just their social media platforms. They have automated bots. They have access to millions and millions of automated bots that they activate on LinkedIn, Facebook, and X, as well as all the apps and platforms from China like Temu, Shin, ByteDance's TikTok, WeChat, and so forth. And what this army, all this division does is spread propaganda and misinformation 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if you recently noticed that there were these, actually I thought they were pretty funny videos of Americans working in sweatshops, and the Americans were all overweight, and they're all at these sweatshops working in these factories, and obviously it was to manipulate the news about the Trump administration wanting to bring manufacturing back into the United States. Although it's done through humor, it's also psychological warfare. And those videos are created by these divisions within China's military, like the 50-cent army, and then they're distributed through these AI bots that are populating in the hundreds of millions worldwide over all social media platforms, no matter where the platforms are developed. And they're manipulating people. Now, in particular, if you're on LinkedIn and you see a video like that, you can most people on LinkedIn are business people. They can recognize that that video is probably a state-sponsored video. They may laugh at it. But in particular on TikTok, the users on TikTok in America, and I think there's 180 million, are avid TikTok users. They love the brand of it, and they actually will believe what they're seeing. And if you look at the power of TikTok, you can spread one piece of propaganda to 180 million people instantly who have smartphones. So before, a propaganda program could take weeks or months to propagate and organize, and maybe even years to try and win hearts and minds all over the world. Today, with social media, you can take that message and hit 180 million people immediately with one message that populates everybody's feeds. And that's the danger in all this, and that's how these the military is utilizing these social media platforms.
Very concerning indeed. For those who are worried and want to do something, what can they do? Reach out to their representatives? Any bills they should try and get passed?
Yeah, there's actually a movement for an electronic Bill of Rights. It's starting to gain a little bit of traction. There's several nonprofits that are starting to push this. Plus, nonprofits that are trying to protect kids from addictive technology.
Well, Rexley, as always, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
China is cutting back on U.S. Treasuries. It has been buying and holding the American government bonds for years as part of its foreign reserves, but Beijing sold off a large value of them in March, just as trade tensions began rising in its trade war with the U.S. According to the U.S. Treasury on Friday, China sold off roughly $19 billion worth of the U.S. government bonds in March. As a result, the country dropped down to the third largest foreign holder of U.S. bonds, behind Japan and the U.K. Countries buy U.S. Treasury bonds as a way to store wealth, earn interest, and stabilize their own currencies by backing them with dollars. They sell them when they want to spread their investments or respond to geopolitical tensions. A move like this can impact U.S. interest rates and the cost of borrowing. If holders of large amounts of U.S. Treasuries were to start selling, it could mean higher mortgage rates, more expensive loans, and a heavier debt burden for the U.S. government. Back to China's sell-off, it's a major reversal. The country was still buying as of January and February this year. There's concern that China might use its massive U.S. Treasury holdings as a bargaining chip in the ongoing trade war. But U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent dismissed that idea, arguing it would hurt China more than the U.S. Meanwhile, both countries slightly eased tariffs last week, signaling a small step toward de-escalation. That's all for today's China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. If you have any feedback on the show or have something you'd like to see us cover, send us an email at chinainfocus@ntd.com. We'd love to hear from you. For on-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.